Bring in co-chairman of the Trump Great America PAC and former Reagan campaign manager, Ed Rollins, with us in the studio this morning. Ed, you think they're going to pass it tonight? Good to see you.
If they don't know whether they're going to pass it or not, I certainly can't, sitting here in New York, tell you we're going to pass it or not. I think that it's a very close vote. I think if they put it up, they better not put it up if they don't have the votes. I mean, it'd be foolish to do that. It'd be foolish to go down in flames. They have to get this sooner or later, and my sense is and you can't ask for anything more than the White House. The president has really busted his tail on this, and I've been in a couple of White Houses, and you can't ask for anything more than what he's done. I think the lesson here is that there's a significant faction here that wants good legislation and not just any legislation. And the biggest problem is the Senate. You don't have those 60 votes in the Senate. You either ought to change those rules, which is what I would do if I was running the Senate, which I'm obviously not. If you got to basically do the reconciliation, all these other things, you're going to end up in losing battles all the way because the Democrats are not going to cooperate. We're now in a partisan environment. When you take someone like Gorsuch, who's a superb judge, no one ever laid a glove on him, and you're going to filibuster him, it tells you that Schumer and the Senate is going to fight you every bit of the way, and you basically got to either fix that Senate problem or you got to basically water down your bills, which is not going to make the Freedom Caucus or anybody else happy.
Ed, let's focus on the House for a second. Given how popular President Trump is with the core of the Republican base, and given how out front he has been on this issue, I mean, anybody in the Freedom Caucus that doesn't vote his way could see President Trump sponsoring a challenge in the Republican primary in a couple of years. Do you really think they're going to defy him?
I think first that's a foolish, not derogatory, to make a derogatory comment about what you're saying. I just think if he's going to be threatening his own side and his most conservative members, you're going to basically have a real long, hard battle. I was the chairman of the Congressional Committee at one point in my life, and so I've been at both ends, both the White House and the advisor to the House Republicans. They don't deal well with threats. Their attitude is, okay, come into my district and I'll basically, I'll make my case to my voters for the next year. And you don't want that. You want basically, this is a team, this is a good legislation, we need to repeal it, we need to fix it, and I think to a certain extent, part of it is it was a late start. It wasn't his bill initially. It's more Ryan's bill. I blame Ryan for this. I mean, Ryan basically is the one that should know where his members are, and obviously they kind of ignored that Freedom Group, and I think that the chairman has done everything he can to try and make that work, but he doesn't totally control them. So I think this is going to be a long, hard battle, and I think with the lesson in this, and that's what they all ought to gain is lessons. They're going to break that tax bill up. You're not going to get one big comprehensive tax bill through. And for the business community, they want the business tax cut. We need to go with that first and then move on the other stuff. But if you try and do it all at once, you're going to get clobbered.
Ed, do you see what the president said today and yesterday about, look, I'm done negotiating with this. If this doesn't happen today, we're moving on to tax reform. Is that his way of distancing himself from this and making this Speaker Ryan's bill?
I think it is. And I think the reality is they have put an enormous amount of time into this piece of legislation. And he's got a lot of things on his plate, and world affairs and all the rest of it. He's still got to get his cabinet fully engaged. He's got a lot of appointments to make. He has given an unbelievable amount of time. And again, I don't question anything that they've done there. I think the reality here is it was not a good piece of legislation. It's a piece of legislation that the Senate clearly would not vote on today. So if you're passing something out, you're paying a heavy price to get it out there, and the likelihood is you're not going to get it through the Senate. A lot of them are saying, why should I eat the poison at this point in time? Let's work on this and try and get something better.
To your point, if it passes in the House today or next week, does it die in the Senate? What comes out of the Senate?
Well, it could. I mean, obviously, McConnell is an extraordinary talent in the Senate in getting things through, but there's, all it takes is 2 or 3 members to go south on you, and I can count 4 or 5 right now that have already publicly objected to it.
Who other than Rand Paul? And Rand Paul's like
well, you've got there's more than Rand Paul. I mean, it's just
right. Who are you said 4?
Well, the moderates have been unhappy with it. They haven't had to focus on this bill. McCain and Lindsey. I mean, it's real easy to knock 4 or 5 senators out of the box. And I lived when we had a majority in which we had a 2 or 3 vote Senate majority, and it was always the Democrats who we had to go deal with because we always had disaffection on our side. And I just think at this point in time, I would argue strenuously, if you're going to spend the next 2 years trying to get big, major legislation, let's think about doing a nuclear option and use the fact that they basically are fighting Gorsuch. Sessions are one of their own fellow members. I just think every single week you're going to have something that's going to be like this,
Yeah.
and you're going to have no bipartisan support. If you have no bipartisan support, you might as well go to a majority vote.
And we know the next big debate is going to be that border adjustment tax.
Absolutely.
In a tax plan. So yesterday the president sat down with trucking CEOs before he sat down for that meeting to talk about health care with the CEOs of truckers. The president climbed into the cab of a semi-truck and pretended to drive it, and he didn't honk the horn. He also wore an I Heart Trucks pin during the meeting. He certainly comes with charm when he does all this stuff.
Well, he's got great charm, and as I said, these are the kinds of things that he's done very, very well in a very short period of time. And at the end of the day, that's what appeals to the voters out there.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love trucks? And that's a win for everybody.
Trains.
Yeah, you don't love trucks. That's good.
Yeah.
Ed, great to see you. I think what
very
you
good.
said, though, about the tax reform package, that it won't be a tax reform package and it could be a watered-down version of it because of all of this is important.
The reality is what the business community wants is the business tax, and that's what's going to stimulate the economy. And when you try and get to the middle class and everything else, it's very complicated. It's probably a 2-year cycle. At this point in time, we need to make. He promised he was going to fix the economy. The way you fix the economy is get a business tax.
Yeah, and then the repatriation as well. That's going to be important.
And how about rolling back all the tax cuts in the Affordable Care Act, which the amendment, the amendment last night doesn't even do that. They kept the 0.9% tax on income in it.
It's an imperfect bill, and the reality is if you're going to fix something that's bad, you better make it better.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Ed, thanks so much
Thank
for your
you.
analysis. As always, Ed Rollins there.